Hello everyone, welcome back to another devotional Bible study. And before we get started, there's one thing I have to announce. So everyone, this is Violet. I had originally made her for Megaplex as an impulse project, but I thought she could serve a better purpose for these videos as a source of comfort as an emotional support plushie. I haven't quite finished her yet, but she's mostly done for the most part. She's a little messy right now because I cleaned her a few weeks ago and I forgot my fursuit brush, but this is what she looks like. And then she has, I can't quite see, she's like a tag in the back with my logo on it. So she's a giant living plushie, and I thought maybe it could give some comfort because I know sometimes studying the Bible, at least for me, I'm not sure if you guys feel the same way, but sometimes when I study the Bible I feel a little anxious, so I thought maybe Violet could be a source of comfort in that sense and provide a very peaceful aura to these videos and make studying the Bible a little less stressful, take off the pressure and whatnot. So it's been a little over 2 weeks now. Which has been busy with a lot of schoolwork going on, but today's Easter, and I thought the third chapter of this book that we're reviewing would be really perfect for today. But before we get into the devotional Bible study, I would like us to take a moment with God, and you can do this however you want. I like to do this personally because it helps me get into the right mindset and the right mood, and I don't feel too stressed out when going into the study. But if you prefer just going right into it, you may skip ahead and then we can get right into it. So for my time with God today, I'm gonna go to the beach. So whenever I spend time with God, it's very random. He knows this. I'm a very random person whenever it comes to spending time with him and then getting right into the study. So I'm gonna go to the beach and I'm gonna enjoy a few snacks while studying on the chapter we're doing right now, so I can have some notes for you guys later on when we read it together or read it silently together. So just a quick note before I go to the beach, I want to let you guys know that I'm not gonna read the book out loud anymore. However, I'm gonna have it like kind of on the screen so you guys can follow along still with me. So I just got set up at the beach, so I want to show you guys my haul for what I'm going to eat while I study. So I have croissants. So I don't have the bread of Christ, but I have the croissant of Christ, very perfect. And then I have cran grape juice. It's very good. I'm excited. And then my lunch because I haven't eaten all day. And yeah, I will get back. So now that I've done my first, or I would say fifth read through of the third chapter of Colors of Hope and took some notes, I thought I would share with you what chapter that is exactly. It is Orange and Healing by Andrew. It's I believe they're anecdotes. Yeah, there should be anecdotes. So this is what it is, and this is on page 33. So like I said previously, I think for future videos it'll be easier if I just do silent reading, so it gives you time to think and not just hear my voice trying to read 5 pages at once and whatnot. So I'm still going to, obviously read it to you guys in a way, but instead of me talking, I'll have a picture of the page that I'm on, and as I flip through, they'll change and whatnot. So yeah, let's get started. So find a comfy spot, relax, put some music on, get into the vibe, get into the groove, and let's start reading together. Let me get my glasses. Okay, yeah, I finished it. Okay, perfect. I almost forgot which page it ended it on. So, to kind of review the chapter, at least my own personal kind of thoughts on it, I feel since it's Easter that this chapter was super powerful and a good reminder that God is this unbelievable, crazy, awesome force that is always with us, and no matter what kind of hardships we go through, He's always present with us. And when we forget or when we may forget, He'll give us like little reminders here and there, whether we notice it or not. And I think it's really cool. Um, my own personal thought is why I think it's cool is that we can just go about our day and then God will like send whatever, like a song, a person, or like a little note saying, I'm here. Like, don't worry about that stressful thing. He's right here with us. And then just some notes to go into. See if I can grab it without making things fall over. I just kind of want to review some of the things. These are just notes, like study notes. So they're not fully detailed, but I thought it would just be good to share and get your thoughts on it. And if you have your own like personal opinion on this chapter, feel free to share. Let me know. I would love to discuss this more with you guys in the comment section. But to kind of review, so the scripture on, let me go back. Let's see. So on the first page of chapter 3, it mentions 1 Peter chapter, I think it is, yeah, chapter 1, verse 3 to 9. So I thought to get a better understanding, I would look it up online and compare my understanding of that kind of excerpt from my excerpt and then compare it online. So my interpretation of 1 Peter 1, 3 to 9 was, we're reborn in Christ. As both Christians and non-Christians, we will, sorry, it's a little bit hard to see this. We will not leave Earth without facing hardships. When dealing with hardships, it's important to remember to keep our faith in God, who walks with us and guides us. And the online interpretation of that excerpt was, I put in quotations. I just looked it up on Google and got a preview, and then I kind of scrolled through to kind of understand a little bit better. It said that we may struggle with our faith as we continue our lives and grow. And it says, emphasizes God's great mercy in giving believers a new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And then to go further, now that I had, so because I had an understanding of what the excerpt was, I was able to have a bit more of an understanding of chapter 3, which it made me cry a little bit, if I'm gonna be honest. It made me tear up a little bit because I find it so beautiful that God is always here, always here watching over us, no matter what. So on page 33, where it mentions that healing is a process, can be referred back to 1 Peter 1, 3 to 9. As we heal from any hardships and trauma, we are reminded that through Jesus, we're made anew in God's will for our lives. And then I quoted from that, Jeremiah 29:11, where it says, God knows we will face various tribulations in our life. This can include, but not limited to, hate and discrimination towards what God has created us to be and has intended his intended individual plans for our lives. Hello everyone, I'm so sorry that I disappeared. I overheated a little bit, so I went to go kind of cool off. But to kind of go back to where we left off and just kind of restate, I put Jeremiah 29:11 to my summary of 1 Peter chapter 1 verses 3 to 9. And my summary of Jeremiah 29:11 was that God knows that we will face various tribulations in our lives, and this can include, but not limited to, hate and discrimination towards what God has created us to be and His intended plans for our individual lives. And underneath that, I added, knowing human nature, the Lord will be an affirming, strong voice meant to uplift and help us grow. Because I read something real interesting that relates back to this, was that the devil, he always tries to separate us from God no matter what. He'll go to any length to make sure that we are not close with God at all whatsoever. So that could be through other people, even people who say they're a Christian as well. He'll use them to separate us from God and make us lose faith in God. So what I saw online like a long time ago was that the devil will call you by your sin. He will address you by everything that is wrong with you, or A, B, and C, right? But God, He will address you by your name. He will not talk down on you. God doesn't just condemn people for being who they are. He addresses them by their name. He says, um, let's go for Halo. Halo's one of my nicknames from long ago. But let's just use that for example. So God will be like, Halo, I'm here for you, right? God will address you by your name because He wants to have a closeness with you. If that kind of makes sense. And um he wants to be there. He wants to be present, is what I'm trying to say. Is And with reading the third chapter of Colors of Hope, it it kind of gives a reminder that God is here for us, right? He's here to guide us and not just judge us constantly, because God is a just God, of course. However, He is also a God of love, meant to uplift and strengthen us and give us a hope for a better future, kind of thing. So that's kind of my summary of page 33 from from Colors of Hope on chapter 3. And then I have I have a few more things. So this is on page 34. I didn't go into too much depth into each individual page, but I did go over a little bit, and I had some varying opinions on it. Or not opinions, I'm sorry. Some takeaways, basically. So page 34, I asked like 2 questions for myself because I wanted to understand it a little bit better. So one of my questions was, what is the definition of salvation? So I looked up online and it said, I saw 2 definitions. One of them is saving humanity from sin and its consequences. And then the second one was the act of being saved or rescued. And then my second question was, what is faith? And I looked online and I kind of delved into it. Trust and confidence in God even when things cannot be seen or proven. And underneath I wrote, a conviction that God's plan will work. Sometimes having faith means to gather. Oh, sorry, I couldn't read it for a second. Sometimes having faith means to gather as much courage as we can and face our trials the best we can while knowing God is there to help us. And then this is kind of down the line of page 34. It's towards the very bottom of page 34. And I kind of added on to one of the paragraphs. And I said, God does not cause us to suffer, but helps us navigate a broken world, knowing that we'll face obstacles big and small. And then going on to page 35 and 36, on page 35 I added, when on our healing journey, we never stay who we are in the past as we leave behind who we were while embracing change and evolution of who we work towards being. So my kind of takeaway is that as we kind of grow with Christ, or just grow in general, we're not the same people who we were a few years ago, and we will never be who we were a year ago. I know I, for example, won't be the same person I am today. In 10 years, in 10 years, I'll be completely different. In 10 years, I'll be way, way different. And then going back to high school, I'm My high school years, I'm not the same person. I've grown like a smidge. I've grown a smidge, but I'll never go back to being that person because with our healing journey, we're constantly changing and growing and evolving, and it's a very beautiful thing. I've come to personally, I've come to accept change and embrace it as much as I'm able to. I won't say it's not hard. It's definitely really hard. And going on my healing journey with God has made it definitely a lot easier. It's definitely made it's definitely given me hope. As God promises us, He gives us hope for the future. Um, and I'm always praying for good things. Page 36. So I think page 36 was a very um not in a bad way, but it's a very emotional excerpt from this person's life, and I found it very inspiring. Yeah, it kind of talks. So what's this person's name again? It was Andrew. I was gonna say Alex, but it's Andrew. So on page 36, I kind of page 36. Yeah, it's from 35 to 36. But on page 36, it goes into depth about um Andrew's path towards God and his is it he? Yeah, and his trials and tribulations. So I kind of wanted to add on to um his his little anecdote story about himself. Uh, and let's see. Yeah, so from those two pages, I quoted in my notes Psalm 34:18. And it's basically where it says that God is always near the brokenhearted, and when our faith falters, He'll find ways to remind us He is always near and working towards giving us hope for the good, and full lives we deserve. Yeah, I think that's all the notes that I have for page 36. But just so that I'm quoting it right, I'm gonna go back and reread Psalm because I don't think Andrew quotes Psalm in their excerpt in their what are they calling it? Yeah, their devotional journal from different Christians. So it was Psalm 34:18. We're gonna find it together, and hopefully I can find it through my eyeballs, my first two eyes, because it's a little bit hard to see. I found Psalms. Okay, so Psalms 34:11. I think that was it. Because I thought we would go over it again in case you guys are wanting to know what the actual quote is, not my summarization. Just double check myself because I did use Google, so I'm not sure how accurate Google was. Oh, it's 34:18. I said 34:11. What am I doing? See, I'm trying to find it. Okay, so I think I was wrong there. So I'm gonna try and look it up real quick and give the right one. Yeah, it says 34:18, but I don't think I'm looking at the right one on here. So on my phone it says 34:18 and it's the NIV version, and it says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." So I wanted to add that onto page 35 to 36 because as the author mentions on those pages, he gets approached by, I think it was a group of teenagers that offer to pray pray for him. So I think that was God's way of saying that there are people who love and care about you, and I also care about you. So I feel like God spoke through those people to Andrew, to remind Andrew that he's not alone in this healing journey and that God is always watching over him because, you know, as I said there, God is always close to the brokenhearted. So that what that means is that God feels and knows our pain, and he experiences it with us as he guides us through this journey. Because God does not want to see us in pain, obviously not. So he does the best he can to help us grow and get out of a kind of negative space, if that kind of makes sense. And I think that's all of my kind of thoughts that I have for today, but I wanted to share. I was able to find it. I misplaced I misplaced the book, but I forgot to mention that towards the end of every chapter in the book Colors of Hope, they have a couple of questions, kind of like, like journaling questions that is like critical thinking. So I'm going to read out one of them that I answered. That's on page 40, and it says, describe experiences of healing, include each of the body senses. What does feeling feel like, taste like, sound like? So I just kind of kept it short and simple. And I wrote, when you heal, the experience can be both incredibly painful and sensational, as if you're being reborn into a new person. And that's pretty much it for today. But before I end today's video, I wanted to end this off and pray. And I wrote it down because I don't want I'm scared of messing up. I don't want to mess up. So I wrote down something nice. So you can see it. There we go. So if you want to bow your heads, I will go ahead and end this off with a prayer. Dear God, thank you for the breath in our lungs and for your ultimate sacrifice. I couldn't be more grateful for all that you do. I pray for protection on those who are suffering and that you may deliver them from hardships. I pray for forgiveness of my sins, and lastly, I pray for goodness to arise in the world soon. In Jesus' name I pray. Thank you. Amen. Alright, that is it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me in today's free devotional Bible study, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.